Later that day Alice was horrified when she saw the mess the books were in as Leonhart returned them. But Leonhart tried to comfort her, saying that at least none of the books were damaged. Days later, in the kitchen, Ursula carefully prepared Kyle's meal. As she placed the garnish on top of the meat, her preparations were complete. She smiled, remembering Kyle's reaction to the last meal she brought him and how he had praised it as incredibly delicious, just as he had expected from her. Grabbing the tray, she turned to deliver the food to Kyle. However, a group of maids blocked her path, asking if the food was meant for Kyle. She confirmed it was. Hai stepped forward, telling Ursula that they would deliver it for her so she could rest. Confused, Ursula asked what she was suddenly talking about. But Hai reminded her that serving Kyle was Sally's responsibility and that Ursula was only a temporary replacement. Sally chimed in, mentioning that Kyle's personality had improved recently and they were suggesting they return to the original arrangement. Ursula stared at them for a moment before replying that she didn't want to, and if they had complaints about their work or wanted changes, they should take it up with Kyle directly. Furious, Hai shouted at Ursula, ordering her to stop. But Ursula continued walking. Before she could leave the kitchen, another maid entered, staring at her. The tension grew as Hai continued shouting, asking if Ursula really thought she was something special. Ursula said nothing and left the kitchen, ignoring the maid's glares. Arriving at Kyle's room, Ursula smiled as she watched Kyle enjoy the meal she had prepared. She asked if the food suited his taste and mentioned that she had adapted the recipe he had taught her last time. Kyle complimented her cooking, telling her that her skills improved. Shyly, Ursula admitted that she had been practicing hard every day and had even learned a few new recipes from the head chef. Kyle praised her diligence and hard work. After finishing his meal, Kyle put down his utensils and asked about her progress with spirit magic, making her visibly worried. He ordered her to bring the introductory book on spirit magic he had given her, which she quickly fetched. Opening the book, he asked how far she had read, and she replied that she was about halfway through. When Kyle examined the book, he was surprised to see the worn pages and detailed notes, realizing that Ursula had been studying diligently. He knew that, coming from a noble family, she had a solid basic education, so her learning speed wasn't slow. He also considered that, given her age, she was quite talented, and it would be ideal to build her skills gradually over time. However, he sighed, telling her that at her current pace, it wouldn't be enough, which left her surprised. Kyle knew they didn't have the luxury of time. In 2 months, the Salterian family would hold the heir succession ceremony, and on that day, the coup led by the second son, Adel, would take place. The Marquis family would fall, and Ursula, caught in the chaos, would lose her life. Kyle understood that she had to become stronger before then. He told Ursula that, for now, she should leave the cooking to someone else and focus solely on her studies. He explained that this would help her concentrate better, and he would have Sally take over serving him again. So she shouldn't worry. To his surprise, Ursula clenched her fists and shouted no in disagreement. Startled, Kyle called her name in confusion. Stuttering, she swore that she would work hard, continue studying spirit magic, and keep cooking without neglecting either. Tearfully, she begged him not to let someone else serve him, pleading to keep her duties. Her sincere gaze, filled with tears, left Kyle stunned. In that moment, he understood something deeper. Ursula had lost everything when her family collapsed. She had gone from being the daughter of a baronet to a slave, and now a maid. She had lost contact with her family and didn't even know if they were alive. It was only natural that she felt insecure, just as she had started adjusting to life as a maid and finding some stability. He had suddenly pushed her to prioritize studying spirit magic. Of course, she would be confused. Being a maid had given her a sense of purpose and security, which is why it had taken precedence over her magic studies. Kyle realized that Ursula must have feared that if she couldn't perform her duties as a maid properly, she might be kicked out of the mansion. He understood that it was his fault for not explaining the situation clearly. Gently, he asked her if she remembered what he had said when he brought her to the mansion, reminding her that she was his person now. He reassured her that he never abandoned his people and always protected them, which made her stop crying in surprise. Softly, Kyle told her that he didn't ask her to learn spirit magic without reason. She was an excellent maid, her cooking skills were outstanding, and she was diligent and meticulous. If she continued to work hard, she could be promoted to head maid. However, he reminded her that there were plenty of other maids in the mansion, meaning many could replace her in that role. Panicked, Ursula called out to him, but Kyle calmly asked her to consider what would happen if she became a spirit mage. He explained how rare and respected skilled spirit mages were. He told her that she would become a great person, the greatest spirit mage, and everyone would look up to her. She would stand tall above everyone else and no one in the world would be able to replace her. Kyle then asked how that sounded, remarking that it was amazing, but Ursula still hesitated. Worried, she asked if she could really do it. Kyle confidently reassured her, telling her that she absolutely could. Handing the book back to her, he told her once again that she could become the greatest spy. Ursula, happy and encouraged, accepted the book, replying that she would work hard because she trusted him. She hugged the book tightly and the system notified Kyle that her affection for him had increased by 60. Surprised by her answer, he gladly encouraged her, feeling content with her trust. Afterward, Kyle officially appointed Ursula as his personal maid, entrusting her with most of his personal affairs. To ensure she could study and work in peace, he moved her out of the shared maid quarters and gave her a private room. When he showed her the room, she was amazed. He knew it was not only better for her studies, but also for his security. Additionally, this way, she wouldn't have to worry about clashing with the other maids. Ursula expressed how much she loved the room, especially because it was so close to his, which left Kyle stunned for a moment. He asked if that was what she liked most about it, thinking she might be quite the attachment addict, to which she happily replied yes. Kyle then sincerely told her that they should work hard together and survive no matter what. Later, while Ursula was in the library, she noticed someone walking outside. She looked out of the window and saw Kyle walking with Leonhardt. Kyle waved at her, and though she was surprised for a moment, she smiled warmly at him. The system showed that her affection for him had increased by 65. Meanwhile, at the main mansion, a maid approached the second lord, Adel Salterian, asking for a moment of his time to deliver a report. After hearing what she had to say, Adel became interested. He asked if she was saying that Kyle had changed, to which the maid confirmed. She further reported that Kyle had recently been exercising and building his strength, as well as dedicating significant time to studying magic. Kyle's personality had also improved, and he no longer lashed out or hit the servants in anger. Adel, astonished that his foolish younger brother seemed to have matured, remarked that as the second brother, he supposed it was time to pay Kyle a visit. Back at the annex, after waving back to Ursula, Kyle continued walking with Leonhardt. He ordered Leonhardt to take him to a large, open space somewhere out of sight. Curious, Leonhardt asked what he was planning, to which Kyle replied that he wanted to conduct a magic experiment, surprising Leonhardt, who confusedly asked what he meant by magic experiment. A short while later, they arrived at the outermost part of the estate. Leonhardt informed him that the area was secluded, surrounded by dense trees, and not visible from the mansion. Kyle responded that it was perfect and instructed Leonhardt to ensure no one came near. Leonhardt acknowledged the order, leaning against a tree nearby, silently observing. He couldn't help but think that, due to Hermes' disease, Kyle shouldn't be able to master swordsmanship or magic. A few days of reading magic books shouldn't have changed that. But with the current Kyle, Leonhardt felt it just might be possible. Kyle gathered magic power in his hand and released it in the form of a magic missile. The missile shot toward a tree, piercing straight through it. Both Kyle and Leonhardt were shocked as the tree cracked in half and collapsed with a loud crash. Kyle, stunned by the noise, quickly asked Leonhardt if the sound could have been heard inside the mansion. Leonhardt reassured him, explaining that he had used his aura to suppress the explosion, so the sound of the tree falling wouldn't have been heard either. Kyle sighed in relief and complimented Leonhardt on his quick reflexes. However, Leonhardt, still in shock, asked when Kyle had formed a circle. Kyle replied that it hadn't been long and that he had simply followed the instructions from the book he borrowed from the library and it worked. Leonhardt, even more surprised, asked if that meant Kyle was now cured. Kyle confidently confirmed that he had overcome Hermaneu's disease, releasing his magic in his palm as he spoke. Leonhardt stared at Kyle, recalling his earlier words about not planning to die young and doing everything he could to survive. It all made sense now, smiling. Leonhardt congratulated him on surpassing his disease. The system then notified Kyle that Leonhardt's favorability toward him had increased by 10, making him realize that Leonhardt was truly a man of perseverance. Leonhardt went on to explain that Magic Missile was typically a first circle spell, usually with the strength of a punch from an adult male. However, the power Kyle had displayed was far beyond that of a typical first circle spell, as evidenced by the destroyed tree. Kyle agreed, adding that the power he felt was more akin to a fourth circle spell. Even though he was still technically a first circle mage. He assured Leonhardt that despite his current rank, he had just unleashed a fourth circle level of power with a first circle spell. To which Leonhardt marveled at how incredible that was. Kyle admitted that even he hadn't expected such strength, leaving Leonhardt to wonder if he was some kind of prodigy. Kyle then remarked that, regardless of how they looked at it, such power was too conspicuous. Grateful for his inside talent, he reflected on how he had managed to read all the first circle magic books in the library thanks to it. Without insight, it would have taken him months just to form a circle. However, one question lingered in his mind: why was the magic usage decoded by insight different from the game? He remembered that according to the magic books, casting magic involved drawing a complex magic circle, followed by intricate calculations and equations before circulating mana to activate the spell, a very old-school method. In contrast, in the game, magic casting was much simpler. Players only needed to draw a basic magic symbol with mana, and the spell would activate immediately. It was easier, faster, and more. Kyle decided to try using magic. However, the power he unleashed was overwhelming. He knew this was a problem, as it wasn't time to reveal his full strength yet. Kyle asked Leonhardt if he could keep what he had just seen a secret. Leonhardt, taken aback, asked if he meant keeping it from his father as well. Kyle, with a soft smile, replied yes and playfully suggested they keep it between themselves. To his shock, the system immediately showed that Leonhardt's favorability had decreased. Kyle couldn't believe he was losing favor just for that, and he wondered if his cute tone was that off-putting. Shyly, Kyle explained that there was a reason for his secrecy. He didn't want anyone to know how strong he was just yet. Leonhardt, still puzzled, asked why. Kyle revealed that it was because of the upcoming succession ceremony in 2 months. This revelation startled Leonhardt, and Kyle asked if he was aware of the event. The succession ceremony in the Marquis of Salterian family was a traditional competition to determine the heir, not based on age, but on merit. The family judged candidates on personality, swordsmanship, wisdom, knowledge, public support, and the opinions of loyal followers. The goal was to select the most promising heir who could lead the family to greater prosperity. Currently, 2 individuals were fiercely competing for the position of heir, the eldest son, Abel Salterian, and the second son, Adolf Salterian. Abel, the eldest son of the Marquis' legitimate wife, was the most likely candidate. Known for his gentle nature and exceptional swordsmanship skills, Abel had been groomed to be the heir since childhood. He had grown up with high expectations as a model elite, primarily supported by the family's long-serving retainers. Adolf, also born of a legitimate wife, had long been overshadowed by his elder brother and overlooked for many years. However, as he matured, Adolf's personality became more composed, and his swordsmanship skills improved rapidly, allowing him to stand out. His supporters were mainly young, passionate knights, giving Adolf a reputation with the air of a gang leader. In a tense exchange, Adolf angrily stomped his foot, glaring at Abel. He asked if Abel was now ignoring him, his younger brother. Abel, appearing lost in thought, responded that he hadn't even noticed Adolf approaching. Adolf didn't buy the explanation, pointing out that Abel had manifested aura at the age of 5. How could he not sense someone nearby? Abel brushed it off, calling it a childhood fluke and saying it wasn't something worth bragging about, and that Adolf should stop bringing it up before people laughed at him. One of the elders with Abel joined in, noting that Adolf hadn't manifested aura until the age of 15, adding that his own son had been the same, making him worry his son lacked talent. Abel, with a calm smile, replied that some start slowly but grow quickly once they've taken that first difficult step, subtly encouraging Adolf. One of Adolf's knights, angered by the remark, shouted at the elders, asking if they wanted to die. Adolf quickly intervened, commanding his knights to stop and reminding them that they were in the main house, where their father resided, so they should not act recklessly. The knights stammered an apology, barely containing their frustration. Abel watched Adolf for a moment and complimented him, stating that he had trained his subordinates well and that he was indeed a worthy candidate for the heir of the Marquis of Salterian. Adolf smiled back, warning Abel to laugh while he could because he wouldn't be laughing for much longer. With that, Adolf ordered his knights to leave, walking away while Abel watched him go, his expression thoughtful.